Yeah, I'd like to call the meeting of the Finance Committee Thursday, August 8th. I'd like to note that this meeting is in person and is being recorded. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. So we do not have a quorum, so can we have a discussion on fall town meeting warrant articles? And
Okay,
just,
sure, thank you,
I know
Mr.
they're
Chairman.
not ready, but
Well, so we've, I'll just say that we met also with capital. I'll start off with that. So one of the articles, as you know, in the fall town meeting is the capital article. We had a preliminary meeting with members of the CIPC. Beppy is now part of that group, so that's great for the group. She had a lot of insight with borrowing, and so that'll help us out there. I'm going to be sending the memo to the departments next week and have them respond to it. We have a different criteria that we're using, a 4-step criteria, one being public safety and so on and so forth. Is it critical? Is it, right now how they rank it is a 1 through 10. There could be, any department could have 5 number 1s, 3 number 10s. So we think that this is going to have the department think a little bit more critically about the projects that they want to put through and items that they want to put through.
Who's doing the ranking? Sorry to interrupt.
We set a ranking, so once the committee will determine.
Oh, the committee.
Yeah,
Okay.
on when it gets submitted back from the departments. So we'll send the memo next week. I plan on having some meetings with the departments at the end of August. So we'll start that and then hopefully wrap that up by the middle of September. So we'll have that article done sooner than later. The other 2 articles that are standard, we haven't had the OPEB article in a while. So what I wanted to do was, if you remember, in the Springtown meeting, we had the capital stabilization that we put $1 million in.
yeah.
Long-term capital. So we're not going to fund that now in the fall, depending on what free cash is, which we should be getting soon. I would say within maybe the next 3 weeks to a month, to be conservative, we'd have a free cash number. We would use some of that money to put in for stabilization and OPEB. Stabilization we won't have to use as much because we've already met the 10% of the revenues, so we can ratchet that down. We used to put $1 million in. We could even bring that down to 250 to 500 to keep the rating agencies satisfied. And the same thing with OPEB, we could put in between 250 to 500. Those are 2 articles that we usually have in there. So those 3 articles. I haven't heard of many other articles. There may be another article from the assessor's office, which increases the amount of the exemption, not the dollar amount, but the guideline. So the amount that's available, like 15,000, I think it is, or 17,500. They would increase that to whatever the amount that they determine, so that more people may be eligible for elderly exemption in town. So that takes a warrant article at town meeting. So those are the 4 that I know that we would have right now. I haven't heard of anything else so far. Nothing from planning, nothing.
So nothing from the charter.
Charter review.
I
Not gonna do
haven't heard, Heidi had mentioned something, but I haven't heard anything
Yeah.
lately.
Okay.
There were a couple of things that were left off. Electronic voting was one of the items, so,
Yeah.
So electronic voting at town meeting?
correct.
Yeah, okay.
So what I plan on doing is having some sort of a draft, probably within the next 3 weeks, of a warrant that we can look at filling in some of the articles that we know will be there, and then just wait to hear whatever's left from the departments.
Okay. And we have our full reserve now again.
Yes.
Have a new year. Is there anything, the library, how's that?
Library, we had a department head meeting on Monday. We met with all of them. A question I had for the library, were they were all set? They are. There's nothing pending right now as far as the water leaks or the
They're fixed?
unit
It's
that they
fixed?
had at the, no, yeah,
It's fixed,
it's all been
okay.
fixed. So
They
right
did
now,
a
there's
good
no,
job on that. They did a good job. doing
yes,
that,
yeah, of mitigating and you know, isolating the issue, because the system, the whole entire system is old. So, but I feel confident now that there's nothing pending, nothing looming
Okay.
that we can think of.
What is the deadline for people to have their articles in?
I think it's on the website from the town clerk. Let me see. I don't know if she's published it yet. I don't think she's published it yet. I don't see it here on the, oh, wait a minute, she might have it here.
Can't be 8-2.
No, that,
August 2nd?
I mean,
Oops. Okay.
warrant due to town clerk 9/24.
9/24, okay.
All handouts due to town clerk 9/24. So September 24th is when it's due.
All right, so we're usually a week ahead of that, right?
Yeah.
At, So FinCom's having a joint meeting
With the planning board?
with the planning board?
Well, I'm not sure if we've had any of these in the past.
We've never had it.
Yeah.
We never had it.
Especially
We've had
if there's no
somebody
audit-
come
if there's-
in to
If there are no articles, then
explain,
we
right.
wouldn't be meeting with
We've
them.
had them, but it's really more often the select board and the
Yeah.
school committee.
I haven't, since I've been here. I don't
What,
think-
there was one because there was an issue that, but I don't remember when it was, Bob.
And then town meeting is the 15th of October,
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
Okay.
so.
There's no planning director right now, right? So
Yeah,
there's a
no,
search
No,
going on for
they're
that
using it,
position and for the town administrator.
I think that they went out for a consultant. Or they're going out for a consultant until they can fill the position.
That's not one of your jobs, Gary.
They're gonna be, I'm not sure if they have anybody yet, but
Yeah.
I think they're looking for a consultant to fill in the
Are
gap.
there Any other major positions that are open right now, or
Um,
department heads, or?
No, we have two new building inspectors. We have Randy as the building commissioner.
Yeah,
There are no other
open
department
positions?
heads, no. That was the only one.
Yeah, okay, okay. Okay, so while we're waiting, do you want me to?
Yes, so you want to?
Yeah, I did some, little bit of research, and I got this, I went to the Mass, State, and why don't you go on the DOR first, because this is really kind of where this is the information from the Department of Revenue. I want to see, basically I wanted to see how much the town pays in income taxes,
Oh,
right?
interesting.
Right, so I pull this down, so you can see the population, 33,406, 33. And this is right off the website, Mass. It's hard to believe that the population is the same from one year to the other. They had 33,783. So I don't know about that one.
Yeah, well, it has been pretty flat, but
But, over since 2000, there's been a 1,000-person decrease in the town, which is believable.
Yeah, Brian's been telling
Yeah.
us that for a few years.
I think we have a pie chart.
So then they have this thing called DOR income. Now, my interpretation, and I'm not sure on this, my interpretation is that is the income of all people who file their taxes in the state of Massachusetts that file from Dartmouth. That's
Yeah, that
1
would
billion.
be, yeah. That would be accurate because the EQV is the assessed value of all the property in Dartmouth. So if they're
Okay.
comparing that to that, then,
Okay. So DOR, Department of Revenue income for all residents that report income to the state of Massachusetts. So 1 billion, 1 billion, 2, 1 billion, 2, 1 billion, 4, 1 billion, but this year, in 2023 and 25, there was a big increase.
In income,
Yeah.
wages have been going up.
So I don't know if Robert Kraft moved to Dartmouth or Tom Brady or what.
Was that house is on Mission Point? That's pretty pricey. Somebody has to live there.
Yeah.
Karen Polito, right, bought a place down there.
Yeah. So anyway, so that, to start with, I'm saying, okay, because the state, the Chapter 70 and Chapter 90 money comes from the state, and that comes from state taxes that people pay. So I wanted to see how much our income went up as a town. And right now, I don't know how they can have 2025 numbers in there, because it must be a year behind, but it said 2025. So $1,647,000,000. Okay,
I would be interested, not that I'm giving you work, so this is just a thought,
that's all right.
but I would be interested to see, you know how the school department and the town each have their favorite towns that we compare to?
Yeah.
I would love to see what that is. I mean, I know what they are, you can pick them up out of any presentation, but I'm curious how that compares.
Yeah, I mean, I love doing this stuff.
Okay,
Yeah, I love doing this stuff,
That's
so.
really sad, Bob. That's really sad.
No, I'm happy when I'm doing it.
he's a
Well,
spreadsheet
what's
guy.
interesting with the EQV, because we talk about the ratio of debt in town is low, 1%, 3%. So how the state determines our borrowing capacity is off the EQV, so I think it's like, our borrowing capacity right now in Dartmouth is like $250 million. And it's based off the EQV of the town, the total
Okay, so
assessed
EQV,
value.
that's my question. EQV means,
The total assessed value of all property in
All
town.
properties,
Commercial,
okay.
residential.
okay. So
Anything.
my main
Anything.
question is, it only changes every 2 years. So see that? 5.8 is exactly the same. I thought I was going nuts when I was going through this, because I had to keep on going back to the thing saying, am I writing the number wrong?
Yeah, that's interesting.
But it doesn't change. So they must only change it every 2 years. That's all I can-
We must only report it, well, we report it every year, but they must only take into account, because
Yeah.
it does go on our recap when we give them the recap.
Yeah, that's interesting that they don't put it in every year.
Yeah, you would think,
So $7 billion, let me round up, $6.8 billion in
so that's the whole
And you
value of
give
the,
every assessment in town.
every cess of property in the town. And so that's per capita, that's just a calculation. If you take that number divided by the population, that's the number. So, and the only thing I found is I guess I knocked out the stop. There's 2023, the calculation didn't, and I did the calculation over again. It's off a little bit. It's not off by a lot, but the number on the state thing is off a little bit. Not anything significant. So the 5-year average, increase of DOR income is 7.8. And it really comes down to 2025 and 2023, because you can see those numbers. So,
Yeah, I had noticed that when I was putting the report together for our town meeting, that the population was the same for both 24 and 23. I had noticed that, and I thought it was an error
okay,
on the town's website, on the state website.
yeah. So, anyway, so the premise, the premise that I'm leading to, because I'm not done, this is a work in process, that I'm glad Janine brought it up, because I will find the ones that the school committee talks about, like companies, like
Comparable
towns,
communities, yeah.
comparables. If the residents pay, say, 4% of that in state taxes, what are we getting back from the state in Chapter 70 and that's the kind of the premise, that's where I'm going. So if you go to the state money, I think this is pretty apropos. This is state money. And if your amount, we've always known for a long time that it's not, the money we're getting from the state is not keeping up with inflation. And so I grabbed these numbers. Gary actually provided the numbers for me. And I said 2 years ago at a select board meeting, when inflation was 8%, that Proposition 2.5 does not work when you have high inflation. It just it's not going to work. So those are all the monies we got. Chapter 70 every single year, Chapter 90 every single year. Then I put together the total, and then the right-hand column is year-over-year percentage increase. So in 2021, it was 0.98%, 2022, 0.89, 2023 was 2.52, and then 2024 was 2.28, 2029, 2.29. So the 2025 numbers are the definite numbers for this year, right? So, and then I looked up Investopedia, the inflation rate for those years. So in 2021, it was 4.7, 2022, as we know, it was 8%. In 2023, 4.10, and 2024, 3%. So, you know, inflation is coming down. I don't think it's going to get down to 2% like the Federal Reserve wants. But, so then I said, okay, if state aid just stayed with inflation, just, you know, no increase in growth, just stayed with inflation, I did the calculation that in 2021, we got 12 million one, 2022, 12 million six, 2023, 12 million three, and 20 million, 2024, 12.5. And then I put to the right loss in inflation, because that money, that loss from inflation is cumulative.
Yeah, we're really not keeping up. They're not really keeping up with it.
But that loss of inflation is, in other words, I'll buy that $12 million, $697, okay? That money is not nearly worth $12,697,000 because of all these numbers of loss of inflation. And it's pretty significant, 432, 834, 187. So every year we don't match, the state aid doesn't match the inflation, that money's gone forever. And the point that I'm trying to make is that, you know, if you big picture, if you look at revenue that Dartmouth creates through all the, you know, the property taxes, excise tax, and all that stuff,
Local
and state
receipts.
aid.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the two, right? So if state aid doesn't stay with inflation, the entire burden goes to the towns raising money.
Right,
And
and
when you-
including local receipts.
And when yeah, including local receipts, and with 2.5, you're limited. You're limited. So now, so that puts, that's the pressure. That's why we're having difficulties.
Yeah, it sure is.
And then so you take it the next step, right? And it really comes down to, and this is my opinion, anybody can differ with me, but it really comes down to the schools and general government, right? Those are the two things, you know, as far as expenses go. And this is where we get the clashing. There's less revenue based on inflation, and you know, both sides have inflation hitting them. You know, benefits and, you know, wages and salaries. It's all wages, mostly wages and salaries, right? So then it gets, that's how it gets ugly, because, you know, all the money would have to go to the school, in other words, the schools, and there would be nothing left for the government side of the thing. I mean, the schools, I don't know, it was 4.4% last year, or was the year before. So the reason you have that, because, you know, the town of Dartmouth revenue goes up, but the state aid is going down after inflation. So now you have expenses. And so it's not, I'm not saying, because I'm going to be looking at actuals now that they're done, but it's not necessarily a spending issue overall, but it is the state aid not keeping up with it. And that just creates tension between general government and the schools, because the school budget is over 50 million, but it's not. It's like 64 million, right? When you include benefits.
Right, with everything else.
So yeah, when you include benefits,
Which
you
is
vote on
picked
a
up
budget.
Yeah.
that doesn't include benefits. So you add the benefits, you're up to 64 million on a $100 million total budget. That's 64 cents on every dollar that's going to the school. So in the school, you know, they want to fight for their money, but the school doesn't have to make a decision on what police officer you're going to let go or what DPW person you're going to let go, you know? So so it's not the finance committee, it's not the town administrator, it's not the school budget, it's state aid not keeping up with inflation that is creating the problem.
Yeah, to Janine's point, I think a good exercise, and I could never really pin this down, which community out of 350 other communities are, I mean, we talk about comparables, but are like in kind to Dartmouth? I mean, closest to the population, closest to the budget.
Yeah.
And what do they receive in state aid and Chapter 90 monies? What do they receive? Is it
Exactly.
close? Is it way off? And why, if it is way off, why is it way off? Are we not reporting something correctly? Are we not doing something right? I know that Westport did a study, and they were in a community that was good socioeconomic. They went to the state and said, wait a minute, listen, the reporting is wrong. We're using reports from 10 years ago. They actually got more in state aid because they became a community that's less socioeconomic. Yeah. So they did that 2 years ago, and now they receive more Chapter 70 money. I had a conversation with the superintendent when she came in and Jim on looking at that. I don't know if that's gotten anywhere, but I do want to follow up with them on that to see if
So
we can
did they
maybe
check that calculation? They checked this Chapter 70 calculation?
I'm sure that Jim does, but I would love to see what other communities that are completely apples to Dartmouth, what that looks like.
So Gary, are you talking about the town compared to the town, or are you talking about the school district compared to the school district?
Well, I'm talking about in the aggregate. The first comparison could be a community that's exactly like in kind to Dartmouth out of the 350 that are out there. And what do they exactly receive for state aid? I'm talking Chapter 70, Chapter
In general.
90, lottery. Is it comparable? It should be comparable when you think about it. If everything else being equal, it should be comparable. Then the other thing is, have we looked at maybe 10 years ago, our economics were different. Maybe in the state's eyes, they said, okay, Dartmouth can foot the bill. But has anybody really looked at that and gone back to the state and said, well, you know what, we can't. Can we be put into a different class where we get more state aid? And I had brought that up to Jim and the superintendent when she first came on, and they were going to look at it. I just need to follow up on it and see if they did, because it helped
That's
Westport.
what's confusing to me. If it's the town, are you saying the school's reporting could be wrong?
No, it
Or
could
the
just be the
towns?
way the state looks at the town. I mean,
Okay.
they're looking at the town maybe with old data, maybe with information that they perceive Dartmouth being the ability to pay the bill, if
Yeah.
you will, and
I
maybe
think it's
that's not the
worth
case anymore.
investigating for sure. And I think that the comparable communities that the school uses are given to them by the state. So the Department of Education looks at comparable communities, and so they don't pick them, but they get those comparable. And I know that the comparisons from town to town are different because they're based on what you just said. They're based on socioeconomics. I forget what else.
I think
but-
for for instance, for Westport, it ended up them having another $400,000 in state aid
Yeah.
in Chapter 70 money every year, which is big.
Well, that's
pretty
good.
helpful.
Yeah, so I just want to follow up with the schools to see if they've either researched that or, because if it can help out, I mean, why not ask the questions to the state? I think, you know, maybe it would.
I would like to see us talking not about the schools versus the town. I would like to see us talking about the town. I think we tend to look at the schools because it's a big budget. Town budgets have gone up more than the schools, but town budgets are smaller, so we don't focus as much on them. And I think that for problem solving for the future, I would like to see us working more on how do we resolve this problem. We're not the only town in Massachusetts that is dealing with this. There are many other towns that are running into that buzzsaw of 2.5
And maybe if this analysis gets done where we compare it to a like-in-kind community, we get the legislature involved and say, wait a minute, something's not right here. You know, there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
And explain to us, being Dartmouth, why we are not in the same predicament as, I'm making up a town, you know, Leominster, that's close to what we are. Why are we not getting the same state aid as them?
Yeah.
You know, if everything else being equal. I think that's
Good to know.
probably a good
I mean,
exercise.
90% of the money is Chapter 70, you know,
Hmm.
it's not Chapter 90, but, you know.
But
so-
even if they were to
so
increase
we've-
lottery, for instance, it would still bottom line, it's all
Yeah.
general fund revenue.
But, you know, so, yeah, so state aid has gone up 1.85% on average over the last 5 years. And inflation has gone up 4.95%. And that's a, you know, 3% difference, and that's gone, that money,
And you see that in the charts that we put out
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
town meeting,
yeah.
you see it flat
yeah.
for the last decade, over a
Yeah,
decade.
yeah, no, but these are actual
So
numbers.
this actually, yeah, this actually
Yeah,
solidifies the,
Yeah, but, you know, so, what I'm trying to do is say, hey, you know, this is the issue, because, you know, we want good schools, but, you know, what it comes down to, and this is, and again, this is my opinion, you know, the general government says, okay, schools, you know, what are you looking at? All right, 4.3, 4.4, all right, we want 5.1, or we want 5.2. And that's when everything goes head to head. And I personally find it offensive that it gets presented that the schools will no longer be able, you know, it's like the end of the world if they don't get that 5.1%.
They laid off 11 people last year, so.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
they
think-
did, but actually in that town meeting, that was brought up. And we didn't ask them to do that.
Oh, no,
No,
we
no, they-
can't. I mean,
yeah.
our
No,
role
no,
is
no, yeah.
not to do that. But I think our role is to provide leadership on this problem, because I think this problem is not going away. The schools have used up, you know, more than $1 million to offset this year, and it's not going to be there next year, that amount of
I
money. is
am
not gonna be there
curious,
next year.
and I just, because losing 11 people, you know, how, did they measure that impact? Has it been a year yet since 11 people were let go? I'm just curious. What?
Yeah, I'm sure that there's an impact, and I'm sure that they could report that to us. I don't have that
It's a
information.
curiosity, really, to say what exactly did happen after
Yeah.
that.
And I think that's also an
I'm not
issue.
saying
I
it's
think
good
the
or bad, I'm
district
just-
needs to move away. They need to report in addition to the percentages, and they need to talk about the programmatic impact of what they're looking at.
Yeah.
Yep. We had a budget subcommittee meeting on the 5th. They're beginning the process. The chairperson intends to hold these meetings monthly, and the next one is,
I think it's also good, it's proactive that they're also in front of the full school committee, and Jim has been giving regular updates, so I think that that's
yeah,
been helpful. I've been watching those, and just keeps them in the loop on what's going on.
Okay.
September 30th at 4:30 at 8 Bush Street.
Is that a public meeting?
It's a
Tammy?
public meeting, it'll be posted, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are we invited as guests?
Can
Our
it- can it-
liaisons, it's not a FinCom school committee,
No.
but yes, the budget subcommittee. We
So-
need to talk about liaisons, Bob, because we have a fluctuating list of liaisons to the school committee.
Is that meeting recorded?
No,
Yeah.
No.
At what time?
4:30.
Okay. Because I like to go to those when I'm not aware. So,
I announced at the last finance committee,
that,
the
the September,
August 5th,
the August, okay.
yeah.
Did I write that down?
And it was posted, so,
Post them on the town website.
I'm sorry?
They must post them on the
Yep.
town
Yep,
calendar.
it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a school committee, it's a budget subcommittee, so
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
representatives. The last one, I was there, Brian was there.
All right, September 30th, you said?
Typically.
Have you seen how Jim is updating each? Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's been pretty,
he's right now finishing up the end of the year reporting,
Yeah.
as you know, I'm sure
Yeah.
you're running into the same thing.
Okay. I thought the end of the year had to be done by July 15th, no?
no, that for the school department, that's September, oh boy, September 15th, I believe.
Oh, September 15th, okay.
Yeah.
because I haven't asked them for it, because I want to see the actuals. Because I want to compare 2 years' actuals by line item. So anyway, so this is what I'm working on.
It's a good idea.
So the other thing is, I know at the school committee, they're talking about not doing a override for 2 years. And I don't know what everybody feels about that.
You
What was
mean
that about?
waiting
Not-
2 years to
Yeah,
go
they're gonna-
after
yeah.
pursuing an override?
Yeah,
Did they say why? I'm just curious
I
how
think
that
that they have-
conversation went.
I think they said they have enough money from the student transfer, what do they call it? School choice money, right? To last them for 2 years. So,
Bob, you're identifying the issues.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about solutions? You know, what do you see in front of us in terms of solutions for this budget issue?
I'd like to see that comparison that we're talking about with who gets what for Chapter 70, and is Dartmouth not being evaluated correctly?
I heard that. That would
That
be.
to me is
yeah, that would be
definitely a step in the right
start.
direction.
I guess I'm looking big picture at this trend that we've had of flattening, decreasing population, increase in budgets across the board. I don't feel qualified to go in and look at budgets and say, cut this, cut that.
I'm not saying, no,
We have
I'm
to
not saying,
ask, I think we have to ask you, but
well, I'm not, I would never cut a budget. I just want to see if something goes up or something goes down, I want to understand why, that's all. But if I had solutions to this.
I mean, ultimately, if we get to the, obviously, well, if the schools, are getting to the point where we would need to talk about an override, then that's not something that we can do 6 months prior to us having
Yeah.
a need for an override. That would need careful planning, that would need, a lot of information out to the public. So I
think
get they
that's
may
the
be saying
reason
2
that
years, but I
yeah.
would say that it would need to start working on it sooner than later.
I
If in
think
fact that's,
there was talk at the last meeting about doing two budget planning, because having the existing and then the backup. And I think that what you said, last year when we looked at the timeline for potential override, it was like, oh my God, how is
it was,
that gonna?
yeah, we're gonna do it all in 2 months.
It can't be done in a year.
Yeah, that was
It's gonna take more time, and people need more information, and I think they need more than percentages and bottom lines and budgets, because those have been available, and yet I don't think people really understand
So
what the
why would
impact
you need
is
more than a year to do it?
for the planning process to
Yeah,
get
I mean,
information
long-term,
out there.
as part of the long-term capital committee that was established, we looked at potentially, not only for the long-term capital items, but for operational purposes, having an override. And whatever that number would be, the planning, that we've looked at communities where it worked and communities where it didn't. And it's a process. Coming from a community where it failed in Westport, I feel that the process was a little flawed. It wasn't, there was a lot of thought put into it, but I don't think there was enough time given for the process.
But isn't a year enough? I would think.
I would say that a year is enough, but then that's a year of meeting with people, with getting the word out, getting good data to the public. So that all takes time. And, I just think that rushing it is not, like last year, was it gonna be done in 2 months? That was,
Yeah, no, I
that
understand that.
was not gonna.
But
not
I
gonna work.
question whether they should, I haven't made a decision whether I favor override yet. I want to look at the actuals first, actual spending. But, if you're going to do it, why wait 2 years? Because I mean, I look at this, and obviously there's an issue here, but, for decades, under Proposition 2.5, things have worked. So is this inflation a blip that's going to go back, it's going to go back to normal? I don't think it's going to go back to normal quick. In other words, it'll always be, I think we're looking at inflation of 3% for a few years. I don't know anybody else, I don't think it's going to be.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's gonna
2%.
come down to levels at 2%.
So I don't know, I mean, I was shocked when they said they were going to wait another year, wait 2 years. And because, for two reasons. One, if they need it, why wait? Two, I really think it shouldn't, if there's gonna be an override, it should be for the town, not necessarily the schools.
Yeah, I agree, and we've talked about that. I think what the
Yeah.
schools were thinking was that they want to demonstrate to the public that they've exhausted everything that they,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and don't really go ask for something, and if they can maybe make it work for another year, but knowing that they're gonna probably need it in the next,
Well, I
Couple
guess my point is, if it fails in 2 years, then in other words, if it's gonna fail, you want it to, if they go in 1 year,
you want to have time for it to,
yeah, I wanna,
So-
yeah, I wanna, you know, you're shutting the lights off and, saying no more band and all. I don't wanna get to that point, that.
They don't either.
Huh?
I don't
Yeah,
think they-
no, I know,
think-
I know,
think-
but I guess what I'm saying is if it looks like we're gonna do an override, then why wait another year? Because that's all revenue that's gonna be lost. And you're putting yourself in a position where in 2 years, if it doesn't go through, you're in a hole. You're starting in a hole, whereas, you have another year. I mean,
Perhaps they're really trying to think through the approach, Bob, because many of these overrides have failed.
yeah, I know.
So I'm sure they don't want to
Okay.
put it forward, knowing Westport, Fairhaven.
Yeah, I think
Nor-
that's-
mean,
I think that's what
sadly,
the-
that's what's happened.
I think that's what they took a step back at the last
Yeah.
budget, and they saw that maybe they can make it swing for another year or two, and a year, and then revisit it back maybe at the end of fiscal '26,
Okay.
if they need it for '27, which they probably will, but,
All right, I mean, I just, that's why we're discussing it. As far as the override, there's advantages and disadvantages to everything, and I think a year is enough time if you're gonna do it, to do it, so, but, they're gonna be the driving force on this, right? I mean, I don't see, do you see any other?
well, every year we ask for a level services budget in the memo
Yeah,
we send out, and every department, even including the schools, make it work with level services. But are we really providing level service with what we're offering as far as like the increases in these budgets? Maybe, maybe not, but the biggest driver is the schools, they're the biggest piece of the budget. But to say that they don't provide level services, they do as much as they can to provide level service. So whether that means, what does that look like as far as dollars? I mean, does that mean a $1 million override, a $2 million override? But I was always in favor of having it be a town override in case the town did need to, or let's face it, there are positions that we haven't been able to fill in town, probably because of compensation that we're not comparative with other communities. But we have to evaluate that, and we're doing another study in the fall. So to say that we offer level services, we do, and we try the best we can, but
yeah.
the schools are the biggest driver in all of this.
So would the override be for the schools or would it be for the town?
Well, initially, I think the discussion was it was for the schools. We haven't really discussed whether or not it would be a town, purely a town override. But we did discuss that the schools would need X amount of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, the schools would
Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
the beneficiary.
And whether or not we want to, through long-term capital, whether or not we want to look at, does the town need extra money to move forward in its endeavors? We haven't really discussed a town-wide override, but we know that
Okay.
the schools would be in need of one, potentially.
All right, and this is more to kind of refresh my memory. So they set the tax rate based on the valuations, right?
Correct.
And 2.5 increase over last year's in other words.
Plus new growth.
No new,
It's
Construction.
last year's base levy plus new growth, plus 2.5 plus new growth.
plus new growth.
Yeah.
Now, the debt exclusion, who votes on that?
On the what?
A debt exclusion.
So that would go to town, that would go to the voters ultimately.
That's the town meeting, or?
The town meeting would put it on the ballot, then it goes to the voters.
Also, it has to be the vote, so everything in our tax, so when you look at our tax rate, right, it's made up of that, plus the debt exclusions that have been,
We budgeted, yeah, we budget the debt exclusion, so, the debt exclusion is is not a permanent increase to the levy, only
Right.
only an override is. The debt exclusion theoretically is only for the life of the
so that
the loan.
expires
Correct.
when,
Theoretically, it goes back, the levy
The
would
high
be the,
school just expired.
Correct, yeah, last year.
yeah,
So, the police station is there, the library, I believe, is a piece of
Yeah.
it too.
A little bit, yeah.
yeah, but it's always oriented toward capital, right?
Correct, yeah.
Anytime you do a school,
Yeah,
you have a
correct,
debt
yeah.
exclusion, right?
Yep.
So every time you do, yeah, so,
Other than that, you'd have to build it in the budget, and we couldn't,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, the payments on a $200
But
million
that's built
school.
into, but it's built into the tax rate.
Correct.
So the tax rate automatically goes down once it
Yes.
expires, right? Okay. All right.
Yep, the driving force is the inability to raise the levy more than 2.5. That's what handcuffs a lot of communities.
Yeah.
While all this, as you presented, is clocking away at
Yeah,
4%,
yeah,
5%.
Yeah,
You know, we talk about unfunded mandates the state puts on us, predominantly the
Yeah,
school,
yeah,
predominantly
yeah.
the schools. Nobody even talks about that. And having to live within a fixed budget, you know, it's difficult.
All right. Well, we can't vote on minutes or anything, is it?
No,
Phil, do you have
we got the
anything you wanna?
liaison, so this was last updated last November.
Yeah, so you take Adam off, right?
Yep, we'll have to take Adam off. Take him off. He's
What is the AG trust? Not that I want it, I just want to know what it is.
What is the,
Agricultural trust,
Okay.
yeah. They don't meet very often, right?
that's a voting
Yeah.
position, right?
Yeah.
If they need a vote.
Voting, yeah.
So you want to put a question mark there, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe like Kerry would, somebody would know. Okay. Capital improvement? Are you staying on that? You want to,
On,
capital
Okay.
improvement?
oh, yeah.
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 Maybe preservation, we can leave. Bill, I think Bill still has an interest with the Council on Aging.
Yep, yeah.
DPW, Janine, Health,
I watch meetings. Well, I go to the library, they don't record.
Parks, you're on the Parks,
Yeah, I'm on the box.
Planning Board, Phil? Police, Town
There really isn't a police, is there? Do you have
Police Committee?
communication?
Yeah, no,
Do you?
well, I shouldn't say that. Usually once a year, in January, I meet with them. That's it, but it's not,
Not an ongoing,
yeah, it's not an
Oh.
ongoing thing. They don't have meetings,
Right.
so I just meet with the chief of police.
They do an awesome job of planning their budget and presenting it.
Yeah, they do. As a manager, he's like one of the best managers in the town, I think. So,
Town Charter? Is that?
Town chat.
Is that still going?
We have to stay on it for right now.
Through the rest of the year? I'm just curious how much longer they'll be
I
meeting.
have to find out from the chairperson, I don't know right now.
yeah, if anybody wants parks, I can take parks, I don't know. So, would you be interested in that, Phil, or parks, or Carrie would be interested in that?
Carrie is interested in schools,
Yeah,
and I'm concerned just about how many people we have there, because I think it doesn't serve us well to have
That's quite a gang.
4 people there.
there's 3 people.
Yes, but she
Bill,
said
Brian, you and me.
Carrie also would like it.
Yeah, but I think we gotta limit it to 3.
Hmm?
I think we gotta limit it to 3.
Yeah.
Why don't I
agree.
put her in here just?
So
as a
if
question mark?
necessary, I'll step down. I don't want to, but if necessary, I will. I think it's just too many people at those meetings.
I think you're a good person to be on that, though, because of
Yeah,
your
yeah.
experience,
Yeah,
frankly.
yeah.
I'm not degrading anybody else, I'm just saying your role
I
there.
think
has
people
been-
have a concern about my advocacy.
Well,
So-
that's okay, it's
No, that's
expected,
all right.
you
It's
know?
all right. No, it's all- no. I wouldn't put Gary on there yet,
All right,
yeah. I mean, the general rule is, my general rule has always been, if you're in a position and you're willing to give it up, then somebody else can do it, but I don't believe in throwing people off positions, you know?
No, I know.
And it's kind of hard because Carrie's not here, Brian's not here, and John's not here.
We probably have to talk about this at the next meeting,
Yeah,
when people
yeah.
are here.
So, yeah, we're gonna have to talk about it at the next meeting.
yeah.
Well, definitely, because Carrie's
well,
not on
parks.
anything, she needs to express
Yeah.
a thought, yeah.
Yeah, but parks, I'm willing to give up parks.
All right.
Um,
Select board.
Well, I just listen to the select board meetings, so I don't go to them.
Soils, I don't know if they meet, but. Veterans, waterways. Long-term capital, okay. Yeah, well, I just made some highlights there, so we'll revisit this at the next meeting.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right, I'm sorry.
Right.
So can you send out a thing saying that we didn't have a quorum tonight?
Say it again?
Can you send out a thing saying we didn't have a quorum tonight?
What was that?
When you send out that for the next meeting.
Oh, yeah, just
Yeah,
let people know that there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
to let us know.
Yeah.
When is the next meeting?
Next meeting is,
Let me see, so we got this.
the 22nd, right? Yeah, 22nd.
Yes,
And at 5, right?
yes.
And Gary, when is the next capital meeting? Do you know yet?
I believe they moved it to, I'll go over here. I don't know if I have it in my calendar.
What time on the 22nd?
It's
5
5,
o'clock.
5. Does that work better for you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
5 is fine.
Yeah, yeah. I thought for Carrie and you it would help. And I work at the Shrine on Thursdays till 4, so I can't get here.
Terry, I want to say that it's the 19th, but I'll confirm it and send you an email.
At what time?
I think it's at
9?
9. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let me know.
Yep. Okay, I'll include this back on the meeting on the 22nd,
Okay.
in the minutes.
And if Gary or you or Janine can give me any direction on comparable towns, I'll update that thing for a comparable town.
I'll do it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they use us.
I
Well, we
have-
use the same-
we
yeah,
have
yeah, we
them
have
for
the communities.
presentations, I'll pull up the ones
Right,
that
tell
were
me,
in
tell me.
previous presentations.
Maybe give me like 3.
DLS doesn't,
Use like 8.
they have so much information,
Yeah.
but they don't have the comparables like this, because I've
You have to go and pick
asked
and
them
choose.
before. They don't pull them out there, and that would be very helpful. It is helpful. DLS doesn't do comparables. They have all the information, but.
Yeah, they have you
don't
go
do
pick the
comparables.
communities.
Yeah, well, the school, what's the site, Desi? You
Yeah,
can pull them up on
yeah,
there.
because they
And
have,
I think they might tweak that a little on the ones.
I mean,
go
that would
for
be a
it.
good,
schools?
that would be a good tool for DLS to have, because it would avoid you having to go through how
Yeah,
many
I
communities to
agree.
find the comparables.
I agree.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Department of Ed just pulls them up based, I can't remember the categories now, but it's called DART is their spreadsheet that they just pull up what are comparable communities.
Yeah.
DLS doesn't, unfortunately. But they have a ton of information.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, when you compare Massachusetts public schools, they're way ahead of most of the country, really. So,
Yeah.
okay, somebody, anything
Make a
else?
motion to adjourn.
Anything else? Anything else? Okay, all right, so.
You
Terry
can't even
made-
vote on that.
Oh, no, you can't even vote on that. Well, we have to adjourn, so. All right, we're adjourned.
Okay.